You originally had a take that Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
You backed off of that.
I did.
And now you tell us you're back onto that.
Yeah, I'm getting back onto it now.
You're back on that now. What happened?
After what has transpired since the NFL Combine, the analyzation of these quarterbacks, and we obviously need a quarterback. We know that. I think that is need number one. And I always love the plug and play player at 3, and best player on the board, and that's Marvin Harrison, and because I think he's a game breaker. And there's no discussion of sitting him and grooming him and making sure he'll be ready to go in a year or two. Off our conversation yesterday from the Orlovsky stuff, and I blame Phil Perry. I blame Phil Perry for this. I didn't know a lot about Jaden Daniels back in November and December, and Phil kept sitting over here in McCone's seat and saying, hey, just go down the YouTube. Go to YouTube. Go down that rabbit hole of Jaden Daniels and watch him play. So when our season was done, I started to do a lot of that. And then you start watching, you start falling in love with the player. And I like him. I like him better than Caleb Williams. I do. I think he's got the whole package on and off the field. But the problem is I don't think he's going to be there for you at 3. And then what's starting to arise here, and some of the commentary, and we'll get to what Chris Sims even thinks about the quarterback class, another guy that played the position, that breaks it down, that looks deep into it, watches guys on films, as Orlovsky does. Doesn't sound like they're head over heels for Drake May. And I don't want to have to be talked in to, something isn't right, but we do like him, but we got to take him to take him. I don't want to do that. I want it with conviction. I want you to fall in love with the player. I want you to give me 8 things that you like about him, and he's going to be our guy for the future, and he's our guy day one. Because when you're the number 3 overall pick, you're the guy. Okay, we're not tap dancing around this thing anymore. You're a team that is desperate, that has won only 5 games. What? How many games did they win last year? 5? They won 5 games last year. You need help offensively. You can't score points. And picking a guy 3rd and not having him play, that does nothing for you. That does nothing for him. Okay, will he learn? Yeah, you've learned. Everybody learns. You sit and watch anybody do a job. Everybody learns. It's imperative you get him up and running early. You pick him if you love him at 3, and you get him in here, and you school him, and you sit and you meet with him, and you throw every day. And you figure out, okay, what's he do well? Let's call plays around that. Let's not put him in positions to, stress himself out there where his head's going to be spinning to begin with. You're playing another level when you go to the NFL. But now I'm starting to go back to Harrison. Let's get Harrison or trade the pick and acquire more players. I'm starting to lean that way now. Because I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to be there unless you want to do a trade scenario where you're trading up to 2 to get him. Because I think he's gone at 2. And this is what happens after teams study things and you look at it and you start nitpicking and you start finding all these flaws and all 3 guys didn't throw. See, I think that's one thing here that's got us to this point. The top 3 tier, and that's all I've been hearing about how good this top 3 tier is. From guys like Breer, and Breer's like, oh, God, they're all 3. They are the shiznit, man. They are it. So, okay, if you're the shiznit and you're picked top 3, you're playing. Now, all of a sudden, if you're not, I'm off the pick. If that's the perception going in, that we like him, but he's not ready yet. Whew. Elliot Wolf knows better than that. He's been around the game too long. Hardy asked me on the crossover, do you trust who's in-house to make that pick? I said, you have to. Elliot's groomed for this. He's been in it. He almost was a GM. He's ready to go. McAdoo has called plays for the Giants. He was their head coach. Van Pelt's been in the game for a while. You should be able to distinguish who your quarterback is and pick it and get ready to go and like him. Don't pick him with hesitation is the point. Off of yesterday. So I'm starting to swing back the other way. Take Harrison or trade it. Take Harrison or trade it. Take Harrison, get Tyron Smith on the left side, sign a Wenu, get a fullback in here, and shoot, go get Russ Wilson. Let's go. Because you look at where the New England Patriots were 3 years ago. Sort of, you acquired all this talent, right, that you thought at the tight end position. Well, really only one stuck. Really only one receiver stuck, too. Mm-hmm. But you had a raw quarterback in Mac Jones who didn't play a ton, but played at a high level at Alabama, won a national championship, beat out Cam Newton, and he won 10 games with that crew. And he went to the playoffs. So there's no reason. If you got a badass defense, and you look at some of the corners, like they're in on Snead on defense, you put him with Gonzalez in that front, no safeties. You got a hell of a defense. Now you just get a good quarterback out there to go manage games, man. Manage games, hit some plays, run the ball, get back to running the ball and using Ramondre Stevenson like he should be used. And maybe we got something here. I'm not saying you have a contender, folks. I'm not doing that. I'm not that delusional. But you got a competitive team you could field. Because last year it felt you weren't competitive at times. You're waving white flags sometimes at the end of games. Can't do that anymore. You know, your owner is aging. He wants to win. He wants to get back. He's worried about the brand. You got to get back to winning football games here. And maybe you go the veteran route now. Unless you're in love with the kid at 3, then you take him and say, he's our guy and we're off and running. I'm fine with that. Just tell me you love the kid. That's all. Don't give me all this other stuff like, oh, well, you know, feet aren't ready.
Yeah.
Doesn't drive the ball on outs. The outs are an issue. He's more of a middle of the field operator. Well, then pick someone else. Get going. Move off the pick. Or take Harrison. Take an explosive player. You want weapons? That's weaponizing your offense.
What if it's a quarterback who doesn't start week 1, but he starts at some point in the season?
What do you mean, like a Penix?
Like you go into the season and you say, we're not playing the kid right away because we don't want to play the kid right away. And you drafted him at 3. I think maybe the most notable case of that was Eli Manning got drafted first overall. They didn't start him right away.
Yep.
They started him, I think, like 10 weeks into the year.
Kurt Warner, right?
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, veteran quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, but it's regardless of who the backup is. But you're right. It's just a matter of going into it saying we're not going to start him right away. We'll wait. We'll give him time.
Well, tell me what your room looks like.
Get his feet wet.
Yeah.
Right.
Why not just bring him in? Let him compete for the job like normal.
You could do that too.
Yeah, maybe he wins it like Mac Jones did.
But that's not a commitment to starting him.
No, the Patriots didn't commit to starting Mac Jones.
All right, so what was the problem?
Then do that. Don't sit here and say, okay, we need to sit him for a year or 2. That's what set me off yesterday, year or 2.